So what does this moon moment mean for India and Indian space research? Is this Indian space research at its finest hour? What does the moon landing now mean for future space research in this country? Some of the questions we'll raise tonight. I'm joined by Dr. Pramod Kale, former director, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. And remember, Vikram Sarabhai today is being remembered not just by the name of the lander, but the man who really triggered off India's space research program all those years ago. Also joining me, Dr. Annapurni Subramaniam, Director, Indian Institutes of Astrophysics in Bengaluru. I'm joined in the studio by Dr. P.K. Ghosh, former Isro scientist. He's formerly been a scientist who's worked with satellite programs, and Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, Publishing India Today, joins us. But before that, I want to go to someone. G. Madhavan Nair is joining me, because Madhavan Nair, former ISRO chairman, for you this must also be a very, very special day. You were part of Chandrayaan 1 when it started off all those years ago, commissioned in 2008. We'll just for a moment wait for Madhavan Nair's line to completely come through. Dr. Nair? Dr. Nair, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me, sir?
Your audio is very weak.
Okay.
I'm not able to hear properly.
Let me try and be as loud as possible. First of all, congratulations. You were among the pioneers who started this in 2008, the Chandrayaan moon mission. Give us your first thoughts today on this big day, Dr. Madhavan Nair.
Thank you very much for calling me to this show. At the outset, let me convey my heartiest congratulations and compliments to the entire team ISRO and also the nation for this remarkable achievement, I would say. It has been a dream which has been in our mind for the last 20 years.
It's a dream that started, as you said, in 2008. Tell us, give us a sense of what these last 15 years have meant since the first Chandrayaan moon mission to today landing on the moon. What does these 15 years mean for people like you who've been associated with it?
Well, I think in the Chandrayaan 1 time itself. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm having a lot of interference. Some other voice is coming in between.
Please go ahead. Can you hear us now?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us now, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
No problem. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, so just give us a sense what these last 15 years since Chandrayaan 1, when you were in charge of the moon mission, to today have meant for people involved. What is the sense of achievement today?
Well, I think the dream of touching down on the moon was there very much when we conceived the Chandrayaan 1 project itself. Initially, we wanted to go around the moon, take pictures.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you for a moment because I'm joined also by the man of the moment. The ISRO chairman, Dr. Somnath, joins me on the phone line. Dr. Somnath, we are seeing images of all of you celebrating. Give us a sense of what this means for you and your team. First of all, congratulations on behalf of the whole country.
Thank you so much for your words of praise and congratulations. Thank you so much.
What does this mean for you and your team? Just give us what you went through in the last few hours leading up to the actual landing, the mood amongst all of you.
See, this is an event we were all waiting for so many years, that it's a series of work that we have been doing to explore moon, and it culminated with the touchdown today in the Chandrayaan 3. We started a journey right in Chandrayaan 1 to understand moon. Fantastic findings came out of it, including the discovery of water on the moon. Then Chandrayaan 2 gave a lot of further scientific data and images. But we missed the touchdown, soft touchdown narrowly in Chandrayaan 2, which we made up after 4 years of hard work. So it means a lot to the team because their morale to achieve in the very first time was shattered a bit. It has come back now. So they will be ready to take up more challenging exploratory missions, more complex machine building, as well as going farther away from moon one day.
I have to ask you this. Did you have a sleepless night last night, or were you supremely confident that all was well?
I slept very well yesterday night.
Well, so and all right through you are extremely certain that nothing could go wrong. Give us, our viewers, a sense of what Chandrayaan-2's failure to have that soft landing. Did you make all the corrections required to ensure that everything was smooth? Was there anything specific that you had to do?
See, first thing is anything can go wrong in a mission like this, so we are fully aware of those possibilities. And the things that can go wrong is beyond our control. So there is nothing much we can do. But what we did in the whole of last many years is to understand what all things can possibly go wrong and how to mitigate that possibility of failure through other methods. So we discussed many ways by which a potential failure or multiple failures can be mitigated by alternate mission strategies. So we call it as development of different algorithms to handle contingencies. So in this mission, many such contingencies were incorporated, which was not there in Chandrayaan-2. But fortunately, we could...
Yes, go ahead.
You are now hearing the clapping
yes,
of the rover ramp deployment.
Oh, I see. Wow. So, this clapping, we are seeing lots of images of your team. It's obviously a team effort. How many people, Dr. Somnath, were actually involved in this exercise? You want to tell us a little bit about your team, and because this has been a great team effort, and you are very generous in always, always supporting your team, giving them full support right through this. So give us a sense of your team. Lots of women also part of your team, which is terrific.
Yes, yes. My team across Isro centers, in fact, this work is not done at one center. It is a multi-center work. All my centers contributed in different ways to it. The launcher center built the rocket to launch it to the first orbit. So it's a huge effort by 4 big centers. Then the satellite was built by another about 7-8 centers, contributing in various elements, instruments, propulsion, structures, its ground station, networks, software, testing. So that way many centers participated. So I cannot count the exact number of people, but it must be 1,000 to 1,500 people directly and indirectly contributed to building this mission.
And you would say that this has been a 4-year exercise that has culminated today, that this has been 4 years of hard work from Chandrayaan-2 to Chandrayaan-3. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
And anything you would like to tell the people of this country in conclusion? You become a national hero, Dr. Somnath. I know that scientists don't like to see themselves as...
ISRO has become the hero, yeah.
You're saying ISRO is the national hero. You want to tell us that again?
Yes, sir. Yes, of course, ISRO is the national hero. I am just a part of it.
You're just a part of it. When will the rover actually start moving? Is that going to happen now as we speak?
Yeah, we are waiting for it. Many things have happened to make that rover coming out, so we are in the process of doing it.
One final question.
Thank you so much.
One final question. Your message to viewers, especially lots of young people who are today watching you, what would you like to tell them?
I would like to make you believe in what we can do things in India. This is a 100% Indian-made mission. The rockets, the satellite, the sensors, the payloads, the instrumentation, the software, the programming, algorithms, everything is our own. Of course, we have some little bit of help from other people, but it is mostly an Indian effort, Indian engineering. I think we must all be proud of the capacity that we have, the ability that we have to conceive and complex mission execution. I think we are very proud of it. And you and the next generation should shoulder such high responsibilities and deliver for our nation.
Sir, wonderful words from you. I want to congratulate you, clap you for what you've achieved. Fantastic. On behalf of every viewer of this channel here today, every Indian, we are very proud of you and Team ISRO, Dr. Somnath. You've done the nation proud. Thank you so much for taking time off. I know you're very busy, but taking time off. Raj Chengappa, as someone who's tracked the space mission for years, you've written a book on it. This must be a special moment for lots of people like you also.
Yes, particularly because I was there in Chandrayaan-2 at the mission control and watched it crash ignominiously. I think the lesson, Rajdeep, and I spoke to Dr. Somnath just 2 days ago. He sounded absolutely confident. Why was that? Because he was able to, what he talked about, all the issues that they faced with Chandrayaan-2, he built the redundancies for it, he made the spacecraft rugged, he ensured all the exigencies were taken care of, and he was supremely confident.
When you say he, you mean the team?
The team, yes. The ISRO team did that. And what that symbolizes, I think, is the true Isro spirit in many senses. He talked of being made in India, but I think what really symbolizes this is your ability to come back from failure and make success of it. And I just want to take half a minute, because Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who started the satellite launch vehicle journey, his first mission was a failure. SLV-3 went into the Bay of Bengal, and he was to resign. And Satish Dhawan was chairman. He tore up the resignation and said, get down to work. And you know what Kalam told me after that? He said, failure is the stepping stone to success. That has been ISRO's motto, that they are willing to work hard, put in all the hours. I mean, they must have had sleepless nights. He doesn't talk of it. He'd done more than 40 systems before they then reviewed it, got the Indian Institute of Science in it. They did multiple tests. What you're seeing is the success of that effort of coming back from the brink, pushing it and doing it. I think that's the inspiration for me.
Quite remarkable. Dr. Madhavan Nair, that's a good point on which to get you. I hope the line is clear now. The fact that Chandrayaan 2 didn't fully succeed, do you believe that gave the scientists extra motivation to make sure we got it right this time? That somewhere, and we heard it just now from Dr. Somnath, who much like you would say that, it's Team ISRO, which today is the real hero, not any individual. But just what Raj Chengappa said, that sometimes adversity brings out the best, including in our scientists. Dr. Nair?
Yes, certainly I think what Somnath and his team has demonstrated is the resilience of the strong organization like ISRO. As Raj Chengappa has pointed out, there is a culture of learning from failures and springing back to success. So it's exactly demonstrated again. The Chandrayaan 2 was a sad story. It crashed 2 kilometers away from the surface of the moon. And also the data available from that crash was minimal. But in spite of that, the ISRO team has deciphered the entire mystery, and they try to understand what can go wrong and where the strengthening is required. And they have evolved a capsule which is very modern and sophisticated. They use all their technical knowledge and know-how to make the lander over the lunar surface and look for a precise, safe landing zone, right, and bring it down gently on the surface. These operations are extremely complex, and several nations have failed in the past. So the ISRO's capability to learn and correct themselves and carry out the simulations on the ground is what has helped this mission happen. Of course, there's entire teamwork, and a lot of reviews have taken place, a lot of simulations have taken place, and the corrective actions taken are in the right direction as demonstrated in today's mission.
I'm also joined at the moment by Dr. Kale, joins me, Pramod Kale, former director, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. Sir, you want to give us a sense of what this day means for you? I just want to our audiences to understand why today is such a remarkable day, historic day.
I think it's a very, very important event that has taken place, and that has really built up the confidence that we have in our launch vehicles, in our spacecrafts. What I had been thinking was that we demonstrated that using our PSLV launch vehicle, we could go all the way up to the moon, and buoyed by that particular success, the same launch vehicle we used to go to the Mars also. Today, when the landing was actually taking place, I was thinking that in the future, using the same vehicle, similar kind of a mission, we should be able to go to the Mars also. And I think this is where our confidence has been built up, that we can land on the surface of the moon, then we can land on the surface of the Mars also.
So are you saying Mars next? Are you saying Mars next? Is that what you see, Dr. Kale, that having achieved what we have so smoothly, you don't see any hitch in landing on Mars next?
Yes, that is what I see in the future coming up, because we could use the same vehicle. I am quite confident that with the same vehicle we should be able to go to the Mars also.
Wow. Mike Massimino, former NASA astronaut, is joining me from New York. Mike, we had a Russian experiment that didn't work just a couple of days ago, a lunar mission. India successful. How will the world see Indian space research today? It's always, we've had cutting-edge scientists working at NASA. Now it's been done by Isro here in India indigenously. How does the world see this moment, Mike? What does this mean, you think, for India?
Hi, thanks for having me. Congratulations to everyone involved here for this great accomplishment, something that no other country or entity has been able to do before, get to the south pole of the moon. So I think it's a great accomplishment for India, but I think it's a great accomplishment for the world as well. And it's one that the entire world can take pride in. Because I think what you're going to learn being in that area, looking for ice, seeing if that ice might be able to be converted into drinking water for future astronauts who will explore there, looking at ways to use the moon, particularly that area with the water that hopefully is there that can be used for fuel to explore further into the cosmos, as your colleague was saying, possibly going to Mars. So I think that there's a lot to look forward to, not only for India, and India had this great accomplishment, but I think all of us will be looking forward to what we're going to learn over the next couple of weeks with this mission and what we can learn to move forward with more missions in the future. So I think it's a great day for the whole world.
Let me get in more voices. Dr. Annapurni Subramaniam is Director, Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bengaluru. What does this day mean, ma'am? Give us something, what it means to the community of those working in space research in terms of achievement recognition.
It is a really momentous occasion, a golden moment, a victorious moment in terms of achievement scientifically and technologically. For the scientific community, as we know, science proceeds in leaps and bounds with the help of technology. So technological demonstration like this is extremely important for the furtherment of science. And of course, the soft landing is only the beginning. And then the lander and the rover will carry out science experiments. But this is also just the beginning of a smaller experiments. But with this capacity, we will be able to carry out much more expansive and interesting experiments in the future.
I'm also going to Dr. Mariel Borowitz, Chief of the Nun School Program in Atlanta. We just heard, the kind of voices that we're getting, not just in India, from across the world who are celebrating this occasion. What does this mean, you believe, a country like India reaching the moon, space research? Do you see now more collaborative exercises that will take the research that is done even further?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. This is a huge accomplishment, and it's doing something that's really never been done before and is a really important component of the plans of a lot of nations right now. So there's a lot of interest in returning to the moon. NASA has their Artemis program. They're all looking at going to the South Pole of the moon. And so for India now to have put the first landing there, I think moves that whole international effort forward. They'll be the nation that has that experience and that information. And I think that will be valuable to lots of other nations around the world to move that whole effort forward.
Dr. Suresh Naik, former Group Director, ISRO, we're getting lots of voices coming in. Your first reaction as a proud ISROian, if I may call it. We heard Dr. Somnath say that ISRO is the real hero today. So for you, give us a sense, for someone who's worked with ISRO for years, what this means, sir.
Yeah, actually, it means a massive movement for all the Indians, and particularly former ISROians like me, because I have gone through the suspense and experience of nail-biting finishes for about 18 space programs in my career, and I got some idea about the situation of the mindset about the scientists when the last 15-minute journey was taking place, and how happy everybody was in the control room and across the country. You see, I am also extremely elated by this success, because there are many-fold advantages and benefits going to happen in different areas. One is this technological achievement of soft landing will open the door for the human missions on the moon for India and in future, of course. And second thing, is if we are able to land there, our human astronauts, then further goals will be establishing a human colony on the moon, because there are very precious minerals are expected to be available there, and one can think of mining and transporting them back to the country, and it will be very precious resources, because from the helium-3 which is available in abundance on the moon, you can generate pollution-free electricity, and it will suffice the need of the whole world for centuries. So that is one thing. Second thing is this is going to give a boost to the economy of the country also, in the sense that already 140 startups in only the space sector are already working, and the venture capitalists will be interested to give them the investments for their further work, innovation, and so on.
Right.
So that is also going to bring in lot of wealth generation activity. And lastly, but not the least important, is this is going to give a tremendous boost in the inspiration for the youth of the country, and we can expect that many young people now will be attracted to make a career in space science and technology.
Absolutely. Dr. Ghosh, you just heard Dr. Naik saying the various benefits that can come. Inspirational move, many startups coming in space research. He mentioned getting humans on the moon. Do you see that as the next step? That this is actually what we are seeing today is the beginning or another chapter in what's been a great story over the last 40, 50 years.
No, absolutely. In fact, let me just mention that I was watching as to when Lunar 25 went down. And mind you, the Russians are the pioneers. And even in the case of the Americans, there has been a big gap recently. It's only now with SpaceX and Elon Musk is it picking up. And here you have, I wouldn't even hesitate to say that we were Johnny-come-latelys. And we came in and showed them that, look, this is what we can do. So, do you remember that cartoon which came in a long time back, where you have a person in a bullock cart trying to say that, look, I'm joining the space club? And now here we are. And we are showing the world that, look, this is where we reached, this is our capability. And this is not only the case of science, but also in the case of commercial things. See the number of startups that have come up very recently. And it's just booming. You have, in fact, the case where a 3D cryo engine has been built. So in all sets, and of course there is the big advantage of technology which is coming up, which was mentioned by Dr. Madhavan. So it's an all-round effort.
Is that, Raj and Gappa, why this is a game changer? Given the fact that you've had a lot of these startups emerge, particularly in the last few years, they will now get extra confidence. There will be more financing of space research. You will suddenly have space research, the space to be in for Indians. Is that why today is an important day in many ways? The new technologies that will come in, and do you see a human on the moon sooner rather than later?
Well, firstly, let's look at this. Chandrayaan 3 is absolutely made in India, as Dr. Somnath said. And when he says made in India, it's not just government of India. The collaboration between 300 industries, private industries that have come in, have actually helped in making of Chandrayaan. So one, we need to recognize that competence already there. Two, the game changer that is there is that we have now allowed private sector in the last year or so to come in, not only build rockets, then satellites, which was not there before. And you've seen the explosion that has happened in terms of the number of startups and the competence that we are demonstrating. The third thing that you asked about is, when Prime Minister Modi went down to the US to meet President Biden recently, he signed what is called the Artemis Agreement. That is 27 nations who are now collaborating to go back to put humans back in the moon, particularly in the South Pole where we have landed. And very interestingly, Rajdeep, that dovetails very neatly into our Gaganyaan project. In the Gaganyaan project, we are putting our first astronauts into space by ourselves. Now, America's offered, and as part of the Artemis agreement, we would be having our astronauts fly on their spacecraft so we get the experience. So what we are going to see is that we have joined the big boys when it comes to lunar exploration, and that, I think, is one of the tremendous achievement that's there.
We are seeing the first pictures of the exact spot where the landing has taken place, and that's fantastic.
Yep.
Those are the images that are coming in at the moment, and over the next few days, I'm sure, as the rover moves around, you'll get many more images, unique images. But the first images of the Vikram lander coming after the landing there on your screen. The moon, Chanda Mama has come home, and that's as dramatic an image that you can get, as close to the moon, and you can see the shadow of the leg of the lander there, of the rover there. It's going to move as was said by Dr. Somnath to us. It's begun its movement across.
Pretty slow, by the way.
It's a pretty slow moving
It takes 1 hour. I mean, 30 meters, it takes 1 hour to go.
The rover takes 30 meters, takes 1 hour.
1 hour to travel.
Wow.
So it is like
1 centimeter.
1 centimeter a second.
One centimeter at a time. Max, Mike Massimino, you heard what was just said in the studio about collaborative efforts taking place, possibly international collaborations. Do you see that happening now? That what India has done will, in a way, also give a fillip to other countries? Let's not be part of a space race, as was the case in the 60s and 70s, but space alliances.
Absolutely. I think it's more of a team effort here as opposed to a race at this point. We have but a few countries that are capable of getting something to the moon, and India so far, the only one that's landed something at the South Pole. But I think our countries, when you find common ground to cooperate on a science project, whether it's something to do with energy or environmental control or resources, something that's scientific in nature, like exploring space and particularly exploring the moon, I think it's a wonderful way for countries to cooperate because it's a shared goal by the United States and India and many others. It's a lofty goal that is worthy of collaboration, as much talent and resources as we can put toward it to be successful. So I absolutely agree that this is going to, moving forward, I certainly hope and I expect it to be an international cooperative effort.
Dr. Kale, what for you is the biggest game-changing, futuristic move from what's happened today? How do you see the future? We are now talking about going to Mars, as we just heard from Dr. Naik and others, but what do you see is the next step forward? Or you yourself said that we'd go to Mars, sorry.
I think the next step would be actually for us to now start planning for the future missions. I think the next mission is going to be the Aditya. There is already a plan for going to the Venus also, but I think a soft landing on the Mars would be the kind of a thing which is actually really required, because Mars has certain amount of atmosphere, and I think our research work, in my opinion, should be concentrated onto the Mars. Because I personally feel...
Okay, I just want to stop you on the moment because Pragyan has begun exploring the lunar surface. So the rover is out, and we have some images of Vikram beaming Pragyan images live to the Isro headquarters. The rover slowly coming out. And Dr. Ghosh, you want to explain, as Raj Chengappa was saying, it's a slow-moving rover. This is not a cinematic adventure. This is real science, and therefore the rover will also take its own time. Tell us what exactly happens now.
Okay, it comes down, and firstly, its solar panel opens up, and it has got to get the energy. Up till now, it was going to work on the battery which is there. That's a 50-watt solar panel. And then it starts its actual experiments. It's basically got two payloads. That is the APXS, which is the alpha particle spectrometer. And the other is the LIBS, which is the labor-induced breakdown spectrometer. So it's going to take the regolith and break it down and find out, in the sense that what are the minerals that are there, and the maximum distance it can go to is about 500 meters from the lander, no further. And it operates, as you know, only for 14 days. After that, when the night comes, it will not be able to operate. So within 14 days, It'll do all its experiments, send the data to the lander to the orbiter, and then to ISRO for them to analyze. So in future, this is the next few steps.
Dr. Naik, is there something specific that you're looking at these next 14 days that you would like perhaps to find out more? You mentioned about the minerals that are there on the moon. You've also mentioned about certain benefits that can come from technologies, or what is it that you're looking for?
Yeah, actually, I expect that even though we have got a short span of 14 days, Earth days, the potential is going to be quite substantial. The rover has got 2 payloads, just now it was mentioned, and there are 2 functions. One is geological analysis of the crust on the moon, and another one is the chemical elements. So in that, we will expect to get a lot of information about the existence of the minerals there. In fact, one laser-induced instrument is very interesting. It will vaporize the stone or whatever comes into its way, and instrument is there, spectroscopy. It will measure the wavelength and identify the minerals. And second thing, it will identify the chemical composition. Now, these 2 instruments are so important that we might come across some new findings, because always, there are some surprise findings in such kind of experiments, because the scientific findings have a long-term impact. On the lander, on the other hand, we have got instruments to measure temperature around the lander, and then it will also try to find out information about the seismic activity on the moon, and it will also try to see really what are the other
so essentially what you're saying is the discovery, what you're saying, what you're saying, Dr. Naik, is that the discovery of the moon has in a sense only just begun. What we will know in the next 14 days is perhaps more than what we've known in a very long time, because this will be first hand. I'll come back to you, Dr. Mariel Borowitz at the Nunn School program in Atlanta. Globally, what would you like this mission to do in terms of future development? What do you see happening now? What would you like to see from the discovery of the south pole of the moon in a way for the first time?
Well, I'm really happy to see that already India has been so open and transparent about the way that this mission has proceeded, and that it was possible for everyone to join in the excitement of watching the landing, watching things as they're happening. You never know what's going to happen. These missions are very hard. So I think it says a lot to have that transparency and have the whole world watching. And I hope that continues as they start to make these scientific discoveries, that information is also very quickly and very broadly shared, so that the whole world can benefit from the information that India collects, and that what India learns from their rover on the moon.
What can India learn from this mission? What are the experiments that could take place? I want to go back to Dr. Annapurna Subramaniam, astrophysicist. I want to understand from you, Doctor, what specific experiments are you looking to see? Given the major achievement, what would you like to see now happening next?
Yeah, so there are several things which are being carried out right now, which are of fundamental nature, like how the temperature is kind of transferred from a heated place to a non-heated place, where the sun is lit, heating up to a place where it is completely shadow. So some general properties are being measured, but as you can also see, the scientific experiments, when you design and develop and put it on the moon, what happens is these are expensive experiments, and you need to do extensive tests, and the components have to be space qualified to be putting up and make sure that it works on the surface of the moon. But if you cannot have a guarantee that this experiments will reach the surface and carry out, that you cannot actually put these kind of things on the rocket. So now you have the capability. Now you can take complex things over there and do experiments. So there are experiments with respect to mineralogy, experiments with respect to the moon's geology. Like, geo is with respect to Earth, but we have to coin terms regarding how the evolution of the moon has been, studying the interior of the moon. And also, as an astronomer, we would like to see something which you can put up a telescope on the moon, where you can actually night sky observations can be carried out without any problems. So many such things can be carried out once you have demonstrated the capability to reach there safely and put up an experiment.
Raj and Gappa, the moon has been part of India's sort of culture, ethos. You can go to our gods and Shiva and Ram, Chandra. The moon is part of the way we've seen culture. Now it's part of science, of course. What excites you the most? Out of all that you've just heard, lots of wisdom coming in of what can happen next. What excites you most now about the moon?
We are only planet A, like that's Earth.
Yes.
I think the moon gives you the opportunity, a lunar gateway to finding a planet B. And why do I say that? Because essentially we're searching for water on the moon, and that's why we're landing in the South Pole, where we know there's water ice. Once you have water, human beings can live. If the experiments that we're doing, the seismic activity, we want to know whether the surface is stable, we put up a colony over there.
Right.
Once you do that, the advantage with having a base on the moon is that you don't need these heavy lift launchers to take you there. Moon has no atmosphere. The gravity is 1/6 that of Earth. You can put up, go to Mars, as Dr. Kale was saying, with much greater ease, much less fuel, because you're not putting so much to break free of Earth's gravity. And that, I think, is the most exciting thing, that right now, imagine, 50 years later, we are discovering the moon again. I mean, Americans went there, landed, brought tons of rocks, so did the Soviets, so did China recently with it. But what's very interesting is that there is a new race in the moon. The lunar race is there. India's very much part of that, and there's very exciting times ahead.
How does it help? There'll be lots of people watching this who perhaps are not deep into deep science and research, but how do you see this helping society in terms of what can happen? What are the specific, do you see something that can be transformative for other aspects of life? Someone just mentioned about cleaner air. Are there things that we could derive from this, from the experiments, that could help society at large?
Absolutely. What about the minerals that we can get back from the moon? I know moon can't be owned, because that's as per as the space treaty. You can't personally own it. But all the minerals that can be got from there. And just imagine, I'm just visualizing that there is an interplanetary platform over there, which can be the stepping stone to all interplanetary movement. And what about tourism? Nobody talked about tourism.
Disneyland.
Yes.
Seriously, I'd like to see.
Yes.
Elon Musk and these guys will start doing that, right?
Yes.
But I think what we tend to forget is, when you are mastering technology of that complexity, that there is a complete feedback that is happening. Artificial intelligence. You remember, the Chandrayaan Flight 3 is completely autonomous till it lands. So you have to build in all that intelligence there for all the commands, so that 18 minutes of terror that we saw, of course, turned to great pleasure over there, is completely guided by algorithms and computers, which you need very high computing. You take a look at the surface, the material that you make. It has to be the lightest, because every kg of material that you send into space costs you crores and crores of rupees. So you make lighter material. That comes back, as we know, the most famous example is tennis. The graphite racket came from space exploration. So whatever developments that you're doing out there, because you're at the cutting edge of technology, that reflects back on your science at home. And I tell you, finally, what really is fascinating with this, and to end, it is a true inspiration to all the young persons that will listen to the story and aspire to do even better.
Raj, fascinating pictures. The first pictures coming in from Pragyan. Those are the first pictures that we are getting. And, this is the first pictures emerging from the rover. Fascinating, as we said. You'll get many, many more such pictures over the days ahead. Each of them unique in many ways, because we've never seen such pictures in the past. Dr. Naik, it's a rather beautiful place, I can tell you, the moon.
Well, that's true. Actually, these selfies are so beautiful. that really it becomes attractive, no doubt about it.
You know,
to be on the
there will
moon.
be those
Yeah.
who will want, you know, Dr. Naik, as a former Isronian, you'll probably want to take a selfie with that. You see, there are people in India who are already sending us messages saying, how do we take a selfie with the moon in the background? Now, you can't take a selfie with the moon in the background, but you can certainly enjoy the pictures that are playing out on air at the moment. Those are the images. But you know, Dr. Naik, I wanted to, how are you going to celebrate? As a former Isronian, Dr. Somnath is there with his team. As someone who's lived through these various missions, how will you celebrate, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, you know, I have got invitations from various schools lined up in the immediate week now, and everywhere I'll be going, and there is, I'm going to share the enthusiasm of the students and the joy of the people there who are attending, and
Wow.
their curiosity. I'll have to answer all the questions, and that is going to be my celebration.
Lovely. Dr. Kale, how are you celebrating? Vikram Sarabhai is someone, you know, you were part of that center, and, you know, we'll be, in my last segment, I'll be talking about those who helped us arrive here, but how are you going to celebrate?
Well, basically, as what Suresh was just now saying, I am also going ahead with various lectures. One of the lectures is coming up in the university also, in Pune University, various schools wherever I have been visiting. That is one aspect. And second thing is discussing with the students as to how this entire thing was planned in terms of the trajectory and how they could design similar trajectories for the future missions also.
As I said, what space is, I said this on Twitter today, space is a bit like life and sport or sciences, because it's a baton relay. You move from one generation to the next, passing on information, passing on your wisdom, and we've moved from 1962, where the first tentative center was set up, to Isro being set up formally 69, to where we are now in 2023. We've gone through the ups and the downs, and we've come up triumphant, and it shows that Indian science is right there at the very top, and that's why today should make us feel so proud. Just to give you a history, India's space pioneers, don't forget the great Dr. Homi Bhabha, known as father of India's nuclear science program, died tragically in an air crash in 1966. But what would we be today without the likes of Dr. Homi Bhabha, formulated India's 3-stage nuclear power program. Let's not forget Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, industrialist and scientist, set up first rocket launching station in India, founded India's space research organization, a truly remarkable man of multifaceted talents. This country and the lander named after Vikram Sarabhai, and rightly so, not after a politician, but after a scientist, as it should. Then Dr. Satish Dhawan, don't forget about him, father of experimental fluid dynamics research, helped formulate satellites like INSAT, IRS and PSLV. Dr. Satish Dhawan worked closely with Dr. Sarabhai, and they were the ones who took India's space program forward. Let's not also forget our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, headed the Pokhran nuclear test programs, pioneered indigenous guided missiles, Agni and Prithvi, guided launch of India's Rohini satellite in the near-Earth orbit. Let's not forget K. Sivan, key role in the development of the Isro vehicle program, led Chandrayaan 2 mission and was part of Gaganyaaan's mission. Remember, there was that tearful scene when Chandrayaan 2 had that failure while landing. He broke down. But sir, today you too deserve a lot of credit. Remember, these are all space pioneers. And I believe today is a day to celebrate science more than politics. We can talk politics on another day, but from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru to Prime Minister Modi, each of them have played their own role in helping push forward this program. In the last 9 years, much has been achieved. In the previous years also, in my generation, I will not forget Rakesh Sharma, squadron leader, going into space. Yes, Russian mission, but there was, in 1984, that was what we got. And we celebrated that as we will celebrate today. We have conquered the moon. As a country, as a people, we should be proud of our scientists and what they've achieved. I think that in itself as I keep maintaining, the moon has fascinated India for centuries. We've always looked up to the skies, looked up to the moon. It's come a step closer today. And that's reason enough for us to celebrate. Thank you all very much from across the world, from there in Atlanta, New York, here in the national capital, to all of our guests who've joined us today. As I think Dr. Somnath said, the hero of the day is not an individual, it's Isro. And the adventure, in a way, has only just begun.